Welcome to this week's Hymn of the Week. This week we have ELW 652, Built on a Rock. The text, as we can see at the bottom here, Nikolai F.S. Grundtvig, was constructed he wrote it in 1837. And it, as you can see, if you look at your hymnal, it's been revised quite a few times. It was translated then from Carl Doving and then adapted after that. Initially it had 9 stanzas, then it went to 7, and then it went to 5, and then it was adapted again. So we see, like here in this hymnal, the 5 verses. And what's unfortunate here is we're missing verse 6, which is really the center of the hymn. We talk about in verse 1, where Grundtvig, if I'm saying that right, Grundtvig actually mentions bells. We see crumbled have spires in every land, bells still are chiming and calling. And we have the church bells are ringing in verse 5, through all the passing years, O Lord, grant that when church bells are ringing. So these bells are pointing to God calling. And unfortunately, that center verse is missing. So I'd like to read that for you, verse 6. And there's reasons why I think it was removed, because the text is hard to sing. But it is still important to understand the center of the hymn. Here's verse 6. Here stands the font before our eyes, telling how God did receive us. The altar recalls God's sacrifice and what his table doth give us. Here sounds the word that doth proclaim, Christ yesterday, today, the same. Yea, and for I, our Redeemer. So you can see there's a lot of things hard to sing. Yea and I, the TH apostrophe is also the altar. It's hard to fit in, hard to sing. So you can see why it was removed. But it's important to remember Christ forever our Redeemer. That pointing or this, providing the contrast with even when the steeples, which we have in the first verse, built on a rock the church shall stand even when steeples are falling. So it reminds us of the center of Christ being yesterday, today, and forever. Or being our Redeemer, which is that missing verse. Now let's look at the music. Ludwig Lindemann, 1840, it was in the collection Christliche Psalmer, and in this collection, it was definitely, I think, conceived along the lines of the pipe organ at that time, or of the organ. So you can see, if you open the hymnal with me, definitely composed for the organ. The way the chords are so full. There's a great mindfulness and awareness of what the predominant style of the organ was in the 19th century, early 19th century. So that obviously comes through very nicely. And it's, even though the rhythm may suffer at times within this AAB bar form, we have the harmonies that bring out the beauty. Sometimes it's good to just listen to that on just one stop. Let's just listen to these harmonies. Beautiful. And these sort of fall under the hands. We can't say that the notes totally fall under the hands. So it's not the easiest hymn in the book to play. So there's the bar form again. So much of the Te Deum by Johann Sebastian Bach, the organ work, like the plane landing. I remember playing that thanks to my teacher who taught me that. But the same thing there is, I think you're landing that plane. You're landing these concepts. Longing for life everlasting, verse 1. Making our bodies his temple, verse 2. Blessings upon them bestowing, verse 3. Verse 4, granting his children the kingdom. And of course, verse 5, my peace I leave with you, amen. Now, we often view peace as a very soft approach to music, but I'm going to present this, I think, this week more in a juxtaposed way. And I'm going to end it hugely, very big, just so we understand that there is hope within that peace. And if we look at the text before that in verse 5, I know my own know me. You, not the world, my face shall see. So part of that peace is knowing that Christ knows us, but also that we will see Jesus' face one day. So that's a great promise, and I prefer ending that very big. And that's why I'm going with that reminiscence of the 8th part of the bar form. One last thing, I'd like to talk about the Dorian scale. So the Dorian scale is very easy for me to remember. I think of D to D on the white keys. This is not the happy birthday scale, okay? But what's great about this is if we take it to C Dorian, if we were to just do a simple form of Dorian, we're lowering the 3rd from the major, and we're also lowering the 7th. So we would just do the same thing, and lo and behold, we have the C Dorian, which has such a power to it. And I think it's neat that that was selected when the organ, obviously composed for the organ, but trying to bring out that weight and color and foundation through the organ. I don't see that to be a coincidence. So this is Built on a Rock. you heard the bells there. I tried to get them in. I think what's great about the text in this hymn is the bells are the call. So they shouldn't be always there, but leaving them on even at the end reminds us that God is always calling. This is one of those hymns that does grow on you. When you first play it, you think, what was he intending? But when you lean into the harmonies and really allow them to color what the text is saying, I think it's one of those hymns, as I did not mention at the beginning, but I will mention now, in Scandinavia, is considered number 2 to A Mighty Fortress Is Our God. So imagine this is number 2 on the scale. That's why it's such a big, popular hymn and well known across the world, and I hope you enjoyed Hymn of the Week.